Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Jerlyn. I'm from Vertex Holdings, and we're proud to host this event with the Singapore Computer Society. So, as many of you may know, AI infrastructure has long been something that's controlled by, hyperscalers and a small number of vendors. And today we are really excited to explore how open source AI infrastructure is transforming the enterprise landscape. I'll now pass the mic over to my colleague, Kwan Chong Casey, who heads technology at Vertex Holdings. He will be the moderator for today.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking time off from your afternoon to join us for today's event. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to moderate today's panel, where we will dive deeper under the hood to look and understand more about AI infrastructure. Before we get started, just to get everyone warmed up a bit, and to also understand what the technical level of the audience is, we'll just do a very quick survey. So maybe the first question, how many of you have developed your own AI applications? Maybe just sort of a raise of hands, how many of you do AI development work over here? Okay, don't be shy. I mean, if you've done some coding or you deployed something, okay, a handful. How many of you here are more from the infra side? You all manage and run your own physical infra servers on the cloud, on premise. Okay, another handful. Okay, great. So without much further ado, I'll first get the panelists to do a quick introduction to maybe explain a bit about the organization that they're working for, as well as their current role over there. So maybe we just start with Steve.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Pham. I come from Temus. So I'm the lead of tech consulting and cloud infra, cloud engineering practice in Temus. Temus was established by Temasek, so fully owned by Temasek. 4 years ago, so we still consider ourselves as a startup, so just a 4 years old company. The company was established with the vision to become the digital champion in Singapore that help Singapore enterprises as well as the public sector agencies in their digital transformation journey. So we pledge ourselves to become the partner with them, help them to adopt technology, adopt AI. We work very closely with a lot of ministries, state boards, and also of course, public sector and also on the private sector. So I lead the tech consulting. Well, my role will be around work with clients, understand the problem statements, understand the current IT landscape, and understand what they want to achieve. Then we will come up with the transformation roadmap, right? Identify the services, the products, the infra, whatever they need to achieve that vision. Then on the other side, I also lead the cloud infra, cloud engineering team, where we take care of of course, infrastructure of any application. Yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Chia.
Test. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Chia Liang. I'm from ST Engineering, specifically the Group Engineering Center. I'm one of the AI software lead in the GEC. Our main role there is to develop AI solutioning from different use cases, both within ST itself and also external. Yeah, that's what. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Welcome, Chia Liang. And Kelvin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelvin. I represent my company, Arcfra. We are a Singaporean startup that focuses on helping organizations to build enterprise cloud platforms in their data centers or even if you are looking to build a cloud platform to host your customers, I'll be able to help you with that as well. I have a technical background, although in most cases today, I'm focused on running the sales organization in the ASEAN, Taiwan, and Australian regions. We have, in the past, looked at helping customers towards data center modernization. And in the recent times, I think we have looked at to see what's the upcoming and what's the trends in the market that will perhaps make up a majority of what customers are planning to do in the next 5-10 years. And I think we see a growing trend in AI, of course, and very much like how infrastructure is deemed today. I think AI is also going to be not just something that's deployed just solely in the public cloud. It will also be deployed on-premise in many of our customers' data centers. And I think Arcfra, one of our goals is to fill this gap, right? And to help organizations look at perhaps moving part of their AI infrastructure on-premise, or if you're looking even to run everything solely on-premise, that is the goal, that is the future plan, and we are working towards that direction. So the software, the solutions that we're coming out with today is focused a lot on AI, right? And of course, being a commercial organization, you probably ask yourselves, what's Arcfra doing here today when the topic is on open source? As an organization, I think we are also focused on how we can contribute to the adoption of technology. And the adoption of technology will be driven predominantly not just by commercial use cases, but how do we help organizations to use software, not in a commercial form, but also maybe from open source to try, or maybe if you have the capabilities, you would like to build these on your own. And that's why, as Arcfra, as an organization, we have contributed a lot of our software to the open community to allow organizations to adopt these technologies in a more simplistic fashion. So first step, baby steps towards a larger goal. All right, Casey, back to you.
Thanks, Kelvin. Okay, there are a number of different topics that we will be exploring in today's panel discussion. First up, we would like to start from the use case and application layer. So we've heard a number of reports, news articles over the past year about, on one hand, how AI and LLMs are potentially replacing jobs within the workforce. But on the other end of the spectrum, we also hear reports or surveys done where a majority of applications are still at the POC level, and most don't actually make it to production. So the first question I have for the panel, for Steve and Chia, maybe you could share a bit on what your own observations and experience is based on the projects you've been working, either internally or with your customers, as well as maybe share a bit more detail about one or two successful or impactful agentic AI deployments you have worked on. Steve?
Sure. Yeah, I take this first. So I think in this era, or especially now, right, you will see AI everywhere. AI become a default. So we ourselves in Temus, we also use AI. I mean, everyone use AI because we try to run a program for a few months, I think 6 months already. So all the, like in the organization, all the departments are encouraged to use AI. Right? Whether it's Copilot or whether they can build their own AI bot, whatever, using whatever tools that they need, right, to help them to achieve like more productivity. So we can see a lot of non-technical people start to use AI in their day-to-day work. For example, legal team, HR team, recruitment, right? So in any activities, you see, I see, at least I can see myself, the people where they just use AI for everything that they work. For example, from drafting email to analyze the tender specs or writing a proposal, writing a Word doc, even prepare PowerPoint files, right? That is the non-technical people, but to the technical people, of course, they even use more, right? Like writing codes, unit tests, writing infrastructure as code, right? Writing script to run whatever patch job, right? So I would say that the impact of AI is inevitable. So everyone need to be like comfortable using AI. Don't be afraid or be ashamed that using AI, right? Like if you don't know how to use AI, then you'll be replaced by AI or replaced by a person who know how to use AI, right? So that's the first maybe simple use case that I can will share. Then go to the production, because that's why it's just you can say POC for individual level, right? To a production, so take for example, just a simple use case for public sector, right? So if you might know that the public servant or the officer, they need to some like kind of file the communications, like email attachment files into a record management system. And this is like really simple. You need to select the file and file, right? But each of that takes time. So now we just use AI. So we are rolling out like a nationwide, right? So the system, a record management system, with the capability of like using AI to automatically understand what the file is about and automatically file to the correct folder, tag to the correct tagging for a further use case. Then the next time will be a summarize of the document or like a ChatGPT, right? You ask, then the AI can respond, right? So those are the use cases that you will see in production, because as Temus, we are rolling out for GovTech and a few ministries already, right? So that's the simple use case. Maybe I shift gear a bit to a more complex use case. So we have rolled out AI bot or the engine, data processing engine for Temasek. So Temasek, they have like different teams. There are investment teams, there are grant making teams, right? So this AI bot it will help the analyst, for example. It just need to go and crawl data from public sources or data from internal sources or from like multiple different sources, and they will just analyze and give the report. It is still a preliminary report. The analysts themselves still need to go and review and validate, right? But at least the first step, the AI already do the heavy lifting. So it's safe, right, say from a few days to just a few hours. So that's a use case that we already roll out for the Temasek clients. Maybe shift a little bit more to the more advanced use case. So we also roll out what we call it e-coach chatbot. Not really a chat, it's a avatar. So we build avatar. So it's you can talk to the avatar itself. And this is for insurance clients. So normally, new insurance agent, they need to get trained, right? So this bot will, you can simulate like different type of users. It can be a very easy user, like a fresh graduate from a university, or you can simulate it as a very annoying and difficult client, like 50 years old uncle, don't know about insurance, right? So the agent needs to talk to the bot and try to sell the product to this bot. And after the conversation, the bot will analyze and give the recommendations, like how the sales agent, right, how the insurance agents can improve, right? So that's one of the advanced use case. Maybe even the most complex use case that I can share, I think worth mentioning is we work with a partner in Singapore, and we are processing genomics data, right? Like I think the data set is around 100,000 of real genomics data from Singaporean, with a vision maybe in the next 5 years, maybe by 2030, you can see that the medicine that the doctor prescribed to you is personalized based on your genomics data. It will be more productive, right? More efficient, and it less side effect because it based on your genomes, DNA. It just fixes the right problem at the right place, right? So that is the most complex use case that we are doing. But that, of course, that one is still not the production mode yet.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Steve, for sharing a lot of very interesting use cases, and glad to hear that our Singapore government and enterprises are all pushing the boundaries in leveraging some of these techniques. Chia, any more to share?
So for within ST itself, we started off creating simple chatbot to ingest HR documents so that our employees can query and ask questions pertaining to all these queries. From there we evolved to other use cases. So one of the use cases that we are looking into is using it for training. So within ST itself, one of our subsidiaries, they conduct training using their in-house materials. Then after the lesson is conducted, the next thing is to assess the understanding of the students. So our platform is able to generate questions to assess the understandings. Other than that, we also look into, say, handling of more technical documents. Because, for example, for HR documents, all the wordings or sentences have semantic meanings. But let's say, take, for example, service bulletins, all the numbers, all the part numbers, there's no semantic meanings to these numbers. So when you ingest this set of documents into our system, the simple rec is not able to handle very well because it gets confused from one part to another. So what we did was we created a extraction agent where it will look across all the uploaded documents and extract all the relevant field of interest, and then store it in a tabular form. So when you perform your query, we will generate codes to extract this information from these tables so that it can better handle your queries. That's roughly the more prominent use case that we have at ST. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chia. And for Kelvin, I mean, you're less of a implementer or deliverer now, but I mean, as a sales and marketing lead, like how have you or your rest of your colleagues been using AI to sort of enhance your performance or efficiency?
I think I fit that bill of the 50-year-old grumpy old man who knows nothing about the insurance that Steve was talking about. Well, yes, we've definitely used AI, adopted AI as part of our daily lives, working lives, to enhance the way we in our work, in our engagement with customers and organizations. But I think more importantly is how quickly we were able to adopt this internally. And as an organization, as a technical organization, our developers seem to have a propensity to like to do things themselves. One of the things that we did, I think, very quickly, for example, was to develop internally our own AI system to help us to identify, assess, and see if there are competitive advantages that we are able to have above our competitors. Internally, when we're looking at creating documentation or assessing customers' requirements and finding out what's the best way to address those requirements, we have created models internally. We've trained models internally to do this. And this has definitely given us a big advantage over many of our competitors out there. And I think that's one of the things that we use on a daily basis, to enhance our productivity. Now, the other thing that we have been, working on a lot is how can we help our customers to improve their productivity. For example, in a recent large event that we did, it was in Cloud Expo. There are many customers looking to migrate between different platforms, migrate, for example, from the public cloud, back on-premise, or even from on-premise back to the public cloud. We were able to help customers to create models. Despite this not being in our best interest, but I think at the end of the day, we are still technologists at heart. We were able to use these models to assess their current environments, make best recommendations on how they would do this migration. And the great thing was that during the event, we were able to, in some cases, even help customers on the spot very quickly to come up with plans, basically do consulting for free to a certain extent. But all these tools, if you think about it, it's not just about the outcome. This has helped us as an organization to build that trust with organizations that may have not heard of Arcfra before, establish a communication with people that we have never met before, speaking the same language, and simply by just trying to help solve problems. So I think that's how we are using, beyond just, of course, generative AI to help create, tender proposal. But I think we are looking at using AI for different use cases, customizing AI to help our customers as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. Okay, so now that we've started with a quick overview about some of the use cases and projects that the panelists have been involved in or worked on, we'll take a shift to go down a slightly more technical path. And next, we'd like to discuss as well as explore about the AI technology stack. So I will get Steve as well as Chia. Maybe you could share, I mean, these days there are a lot of different options in which you can go about building or deploying your own AI application, from using a commercial solution to working or using a product from the hyperscalers, or going it yourself using open source frameworks and libraries. So far, I mean, what has been your observations about the options out there today, and what are some of the technologies or tools that you've been using? What are your preferences, and maybe why? Maybe we'll start with Steve again.
Okay, sure. Or maybe you start first, since you have your...
Sure, Chia.
Okay, so for for GC itself, we primarily develop on-prem solutions, because some of our internal customers are handling sensitive data. So we are on-premises. So most of the deployment will use open source software. So a brief overview of what are the stacks that we're using. Just what off my head. So in terms of the inferencing, model serving, we are using LLMs. In terms of the vector DBs, Milvus. In terms of relational databases, Postgres. And then message queue, Kafka. And then in terms of observability, we have Grafana's and standard software monitoring tools. Then I think the only thing that we lack is in terms of the model observation, whether the model drift or the prompt drifts. So from the very beginning, when we started off, the model wasn't that powerful yet. So we still do a little bit of fine tuning so that we can handle the specific use cases. But over time, the model just gets better and better, and then there's no longer a need to so-called track the model, because we no longer train the model itself. So I think that's the only area that we are probably lagging. Yeah, so that's roughly the stack that we are currently using.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Steve.
yeah. Let me add on top of that. So I think because I'm dealing with a lot of different clients, right, and different use cases. So actually the selection of the tech stack is, I think it would be depends on the use case. Temus, we are not a product company. We don't want to sell any particular product. So we are product agnostic, cloud agnostic, right? AI, even AI. So it depends on the use case. We will choose what's the best to solve the use case, right? And I think Chia have shared the standard tech stack that when you want to build an AI application, those are the components that you need, right? Maybe you have alternative like Milvus, V8, right, or VLLM, or any like Olama, right? So different models have different pros and cons, yeah. And maybe I can say recently I talked to, because we have strong relationship with AWS and Azure, right? So I think just last week I talked to Azure AI Foundry team. They do have a model router already. So out of the box, it allows you to compare the model itself, right? So actually, you don't need to do that evaluation anymore. And I think that's the going forward direction, right? That means right now, there are, based on AI Foundry team, there are 11,000 models available in the Foundry itself. So how do you pick which one? It doesn't matter anymore because the tool itself will give you the best, will suggest you what is the most suitable for your use case. And going forward, maybe that is how all the application will be, AI application will be built. You just give it a prompt, right? Based on the prompt, the tool will tell you, it will choose the best model for your prompt and give you the best answer. Right. So maybe to go back to the question about open source or hyperscaler, I mean, it still depends on the use case, depends on your use case. But maybe one of the non-negotiable elements is security and data classification, because I deal with a lot of public sector clients. Singapore public sector, one of the non-negotiable requirement is the data residencies, right? It has to be in Singapore. Some of the classification require the data need to sit on certain data center, right? And if you have that requirement, then you need to go with it, right? You need to make it work. You need to bring the model, bring the tools, wherever tools, into that environment, right? But if there is not a requirement like that, then maybe our client, they don't really care, right? Because as long as it's fastest, cheapest, easiest to deploy, easiest to monitor, they will just choose it, right? They don't really care what tech stack, yeah?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So I think a lot of interesting and good points brought out. On one hand, with the SaaS providers or hyperscalers like Azure Foundry, you get a lot of automation and optimization out of the box. But I mean, yet you also, in certain use cases, have to deal with data security or sensitivity concerns. But let's try to unpack that a bit more. So, as you go in, when you're working with a new project or a new client, what are some of these different trade-offs you want to consider? I guess apart from the security side where you have no choice and you have to do it on-prem, but is there any reason or compelling factor to use open source and do it yourself versus just leveraging some of these existing SaaS or platform as a service kind of options? So maybe for this, we'll start with Kelvin from your experience in the field and working with various customers. Like what have you seen in terms of them coming to such decisions?
So very good question there. I mean, I think the question, if you really break the question down, it really boils down to perhaps one thing, right? Is open source as good, as safe, as complete as a commercial product? I think in most cases, when we look at commercial products, it is basically targeted at 80% of the customers who uses 20% of the features of maybe the full open source stack. And however, that also means that a commercial product is typically limited in terms of doing things out of the box. That is usually the case. And you usually get a commercial product for stability and also for the support that comes with a commercially acquired product. Now, the open source movement, however, right, is pretty much 100% of the use cases, and it includes the other 80% of the use cases that 20% of the market may use. Now, in most cases, especially today, right, when we look at where AI is in its current trajectory, I think we have to understand that there is a saying, I mean, there's this old a story about, I won't go down as far as call it a parable, but a story about the 5 blind men trying to figure out what an elephant looks like. And everyone is trying to figure out what's the best way to adopt AI. What can I use AI for? Now, like I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why Arcfra has taken that step to make, although we do have a commercially available version of our AI infrastructure software, our solution, we've decided to put it into open source because then whatever is developed in open source continues to remain on that fork. And this is continuously available to customers who want to adopt the AI technology or the AI stack. And I think for a start, to raise the adoption, to increase the adoption of AI, open source is still going to be the predominant source of truth when it comes to building infrastructure to run AI. And also for application developers who are working in this AI space, you will also adopt a lot of the open source technologies. Now, whether this will taper off as we go along or as when AI matures over time and becomes more commoditized, that story is to be written. But today, I think open source will still be on the top of everyone's minds, as you embark on this journey on implementing AI in your organizations. So the challenge, however, will then be how do we secure, how do we integrate, how do we put all of the open source components together into a contiguous technology stack, and how do we secure that? I think that's something that we probably will need to look at going forward.
Yeah, thanks.
Can I add on?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so just now I mentioned about AWS or Azure. Right? It's not really a commercial package that you can just buy and it work, right? They provide the services, so-called managed service for you, but you also need to they like that managed service use open source model, right? So I think the main point here is not trying to use open source because it's cheap, because it's free. It's free not only in the terms of money, right, but in terms of usage, right? But I think the main point is let's try not to be locked into a vendor or to a product. So as long as you can choose product that not locked in, right? You use the open standard, like open API standard, open telemetry standard, then you can just switch, right? You will make use the most out of it, right? Like technology change so fast, right? New model come out every day, new technology come out every day. Just as long as your tech stack, you will be able to switch, plug and play. It doesn't matter that you run your application on a hyperscaler, right? You still can enjoy, maybe you can say as a hybrid, right? Enjoy the benefits of both worlds. Where some of the services, managed service, you pay for it because imagine you have to go and choose the model yourself compared to a service that, well, based on the prompt, it choose the best for you, right? The amount of effort, the amount of resources for you to build the engine itself, why don't just go and use it? It's more worth it.
Yeah, good point, Steve. And Chia, I mean, for you, you mentioned you are sort of forced or required to do on-prem because of security reasons. But if you had the flexibility and you weren't tied down by such a constraint, I mean, what would you recommend, or what path would you go down? Or would you still think that doing your own physical servers and hardware is optimal?
I think first off, in terms of management-wise, it's definitely easier to just hands off, let the managed service handle all the scaling or the retry or to keep the service alive. But for us, I think for our use cases, we do have other engagement that we do a hybrid. So I'm not sure if you all are familiar with AWS Text Track, where it's sort of like a parcel for documents. So that managed service is very expensive. So for that part of the workflow, we deploy our own models to parse documents, to parse the files and stuff like that. But for the rest of the services, say for example, the embeddings and all the LLM generations and whatnot, we do use managed services. And for that, it's significantly easier in terms of how to manage the deployment. Yeah, so I do see the merit in using managed service, but it comes at a cost, a price. It's whether are you willing to pay for it. In our case, our customer is willing to pay, so then everybody's fine with that. Yeah, so sometimes it boils down to cost also. Yeah, that's my thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, a lot of good points shared by the panelists. Diving a bit more down around the infrastructure path, on-prem, cloud, hybrid, there's a sort of perceived notion that it's fairly difficult or challenging, right, to run your own data centers or servers. But I mean, some organizations still choose to do so. Maybe at a certain scale, there are some cost efficiencies or benefits. Maybe starting with Kelvin, you could share a bit, again, from working with your various customers and partners, what is sort of the difficulty or challenge or sort of the decision point in which they decide, let's take ownership of our own infra and servers rather than, relying on cloud and the hyperscalers?
Going down the path of the 50-year-old grumpy man again, I think there was a time in the past, right? And again, this is just based on my own personal experience, my own meandering experience in my career. There was a time when there was this huge debate, and it was pretty much a 1 or 0 answer, a binary answer at that time. Should I go on premise? Should I go in the public cloud? And there was nothing in between. So you had two camps of people who said that, the public cloud is the next best thing in the world. It's going to be the cloud or bust. Then there were the traditionalists at the time, as we were called, who spent all our lives stuck in a data center somewhere. And we said that, this cloud thing is just another fad that's going to go away. Both parties over the years have been proven wrong. None of the other was going to go away. None of the other was going to replace each other. In fact, today I think we are talking about hybrid clouds, in so much so that the term enterprise cloud doesn't just encompass an on-premise data center, but what enterprise cloud actually means is a hybrid model of on-premise infrastructure as well as workloads that you run on public clouds. And I think very similarly for AI going forward, I don't foresee it to be a binary answer. Will we run everything on premise or in the public cloud? Now, back to the challenge of why the public cloud seems to be a very attractive proposition for many organizations today, and rightly so, is that a lot of what's driven by AI today, it's at the application level. And many infrastructure practitioners, IT practitioners, are struggling to keep up with the requirements and the demands of what the AI applications are expecting of infrastructure. And the hyperscalers have been able to address those requirements in a very easy fashion, presenting everything in a single pane of glass where at a few clicks you are able to deploy an infrastructure that's sort of ready to a certain extent to host the AI applications, right? Now back on premise, where many of us probably spend a big part of our careers in, we are struggling to maybe wrap our heads around things like containers. Wrap our heads around things like software-defined networking. Wrap around our heads around things like, what in the world are we talking about when they say a VLLM, right? So infrastructure is struggling to keep up with the demands of AI. And so whatever remains on premise, is just simply not AI ready. And how do we even then transform what we have to make it able to run AI and then manage it in a simplistic fashion? And I guess from that perspective is when I speak to many customers, I think that's the biggest challenge they have. Bringing AI workloads back on premise. Now, back to the point that Steve mentioned, I think around the topic of security, data sovereignty, these are questions, these are things that are existential, and you cannot go against these requirements. And if I need to bring AI back on premise, I need, first of all, because these are compliance requirements, I need to be able to have something back in my data center to simply allow me to host this. And that is the spirit on which Arcfra is developing our AI infrastructure platform. It is to simplify the entire deployment of AI infrastructure to make it AI ready out of the box. It is not there to lock you down. Again, like Steve mentioned, the purpose of AI infrastructure is not to lock you down to specific vendor solutions. It's not to lock you down to the public cloud. It's not to lock you down to a set of technologies created by a vendor. It is a framework that allows you to plug in all of the different components into the infrastructure to make it AI ready. So that's what, and I think one of the things that Arcfra, I guess for every organization, including some of your own organizations, you have a North Star. And this North Star is a direction in which the company operates, the spirit on which we develop our solutions. And our North Star in Arcfra it really boils down to this tagline. And I think we try to live and breathe this, in whatever we do. We strongly believe that in order for innovation, like what my fellow panelists have shared, and I think it's wonderful. I think that's going to change lives. But in order for this innovation to be unleashed, infrastructure cannot be tweaked. It has to be transformed. And I think not just transform, but redefine. I think at Arcfra, we believe in redefining that technology, redefining how infrastructure gets looked at, so that from a perspective of whether we should do this on-premise or in the public cloud, I think we should be able to bring the simplicity of public cloud deployments back into your data centers, right? So that customers, again, down to the choice. If that is something that you need to bring back your AI workloads into your data centers, you are able to do it as simply as if you are deploying your AI workloads into the public clouds. And I think that's what we live and breathe and try to do.
Add on?
Yeah.
Right. Actually, I really admire the work that Arcfra do, because like for my use case, right, there's a public sector clients, right, but that means they still can use a hyperscaler. Just that the classification of the data is confidential, which is need to store in, they call it a dedicated zone, AWS dedicated zone. And in this zone, there are a lot of services that are not available, not like the public cloud, right? So in that project, actually we, like the infra team, spent a lot of time just to set up this GPU, set up the driver, CUDA driver, LLM models. It takes a lot of time. So I cannot imagine you need to set up like on-prem with, I don't know if the restriction of the data, is it as hard as my use case? But I mean, if I have a choice, personally, of course, I want to use the easy way, right? It's already there, a public internet connectable, just plug in, right? But then, of course, the use case that you can't. You need to host it yourself. You need to do everything yourself. That's the real challenge. And you need to have somebody like Kelvin and his team to help manage that. It's not easy.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Steve. And for Chia, so I mean, you've done a lot of these on-prem sort of deployments based on your requirements that you shared. How has this transition to getting it like AI ready, or with this new sort of AI workloads, has it been challenging for you, or what's sort of the experience been like in deploying AI applications on-prem?
So I think on-prem is what we do best, I think, at least in SD. So we are now moving from on-prem to hybrid, and also to cloud native. So in terms of software development-wise, to address this transition from on-prem to cloud native applications, we also develop in-house tool as a low-code, no-code platform to develop AI solutioning. So in this AI solutioning platform, it gives you the choice of your tool that you want to use, be it on-prem tool or versus a cloud-native tools. So that's the direction, or that's the strategy that we are trying to make use of to address these transitions. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Xiaoliang. Okay, so now we'll transition to the third part of today's panel discussion. So we first talk a lot about different AI use cases, what are some of the interesting deployments and projects that they've implemented over the past year. We then went a bit into discussing the AI tech stack, infrastructure, use of hyperscalers, deploying on-prem. Finally, we want to talk a bit about monitoring and observability, right? I mean, as you know, models tend to hallucinate. You need to be able to ensure that your platform or solution is performant, both in terms of the speed in which it generates its answers, as well as the quality. I'll now get the panelists to maybe share a bit about their own experiences on the field around monitoring, observability, especially in this era of AI sort of applications. Steve,
okay,
like to go first?
Maybe share first. So to me, I feel that AI application is kind of the same as any other application, right? It's not that you just have a package and it works, magically work. You need to have everything, right? You need the interface. It can be a web application, a chatbot, or even Teams, right? Like it's just a channel for the user to interact with it. Then you need the logic, right? Then you need your data structure, your data storage. Then, of course, you need to the process data, store in VectorDB. Then you need to call LLM, form the logic. I mean, think about it, it's just another application. So the way that you observe or deploy or maintain or do whatever is follow the same best practices that you can apply to any of the application. So you still need to source code control, right? Version control. So version your prompt, version your parameters, right? All of those you need to make sure that you know exactly what version that you are running, with what kind of data set that you can achieve the same result, right? What kind of parameter. So all of those you need to have a way to track it, to trace it. Then when you run the application, then when things goes wrong, actually AI application goes wrong, it's harder to detect, right? Because normal application, if it's failed, there's an error code, 400, 500. If your infra down, you know where to look at, right? But then maybe AI application is a bit tricky. It still can return you something, but it's wrong. It's not accurate, right? So how can you trace? How can you measure the accuracy? Is there any hallucination or toxicity, right? So those are the kind of additional stuff you need to observe, monitor on top of the normal applications. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Chalan, from your own experiences at ST.
So I second what Steve has just mentioned for. So in terms of monitoring, I think AI applications doesn't differ too much from other software applications. Just that on top of what you do for software applications, you still have to look into the quality of the generated response. So for our case, because we are deploying different workflow for different applications, so to measure, because for each workflow, there can be a different sets of components that you use. Maybe this workflow one uses this model, second workflow uses the same model but different prompt. So what we do is that we run RAGAS against each of this workflow. So RAGAS is like an evaluation tool to quantify the performance of this workflow or these models in terms of the faithfulness, the correctness, relevancy, and stuff like that. So we will score each of this so-called workflow and see over time or over depends on the different inputs, how does it varies and performs. So that's the additional kind of monitoring that we did. In addition to that, we also do sort of a log dump. So basically, for each of the run of the workflow, for each of the steps that it takes, we have a log. So we can actually replay. So like this, given this input and this retrieved context, and these are the generated response from these models that we use, and how do we arrive at this final answer that is wrong or correct or partially correct. So from there, we can then further improve on the performance. Yeah, so that's what it did here.
Yeah, thanks, Shalan. And Kelvin, anything to share from the infra side of the house on what was something?
I think Chia spoke about performance. I think that's a key thing, right? So at the end of the day, performance, other than, of course, coding efficiency, a lot of how performance is shown is really based on the hardware platform or the infrastructure platform on which the applications sit on, right? We can have Oracle database, right, for example, tuned to the best. But if you're running it on subpar or suboptimal hardware, whether it's because you don't have enough CPU, you don't have enough compute, don't have enough memory, or your storage latency is too high, your databases will perform suboptimally as well. Because at the end of the day, software needs to be backed by hardware. It's what powers software. Now, I think what we are doing here is, I think, taking some of the telemetry that comes from the software level, from the AI stack, and see how we can help organizations or IT administrators or platform owners to correlate the information that's gathered from the logs or the performance matrices that are generated by the application and correlate that back to infrastructure. The observability doesn't just stop at the application level. It also looks at the networking level, the hardware level, because this also ties into security. And I think today, the challenge, of course, is whilst we can control access to an AI application, what happens if someone is able to get into your data center? And it may not be at the AI client. It could be from other workloads that are running in your data centers. And so we want to ensure that we have that observability, not just from a performance standpoint, but from a security standpoint, but also from a performance standpoint. How do we then help to either prove or disprove that infrastructure is the cause of the performance issues that the AI applications are facing? And I think that's something that we take very seriously. That's something that we are looking, that we have developed as part of our AI infrastructure to work together with the AI application to come up with a more holistic view of how the application is performing and if there are any bottlenecks that are forming in the environment.
Okay, thanks, Kelvin. Okay, so before we wrap up, one final question to the panel from me, and then we'll open it up to the audience for Q&A. So if you have anything on your mind, please feel free to start thinking and formulating your question, and we'll open it up right after this. So the final question to the panel from me, so looking ahead to 2026, what do you see as the most important developments or impact areas for AI infrastructure and democratization? What do you foresee, or what do you sort of look forward to, or what do you wish to sort of happen in this space? We'll start with Steve again.
So I think going forward, you will see the so-called AI platform or AI native, right? Will become the first-class citizen. So you see everywhere, all application, all system will have an AI component in it. If a solution don't have an AI, people will just choose the competitor. Simple as that. And with that, and also with the improvement or the innovation, the speed of innovation from all around the world, we will see AI compute or AI resources will become a commodity. Like I just shared with you, right? Like the AI Foundry, Azure AI Foundry. So I imagine that you can just deploy an AI application as simple as you deploy a web application as today, right? Imagine that like 10 years ago, you struggle to deploy a web application. Right now, it's just a few clicks. It will be the same for AI application. It will be like that. You just have a few clicks, you will have your own AI application. But it comes with the security and governance problem, like Kevin had mentioned, because everyone can do it. Everyone can just spin off and write your own AI, right? So who govern that, right? Then it comes to the question of authorization, authentication. Can the AI access that data, right? Then all the RBAC, right, role-based access control will come into place. Within the organization itself, how the technology or the security team ensure that the data is secure, right? The data is not leaked out. Data is, confidential data from, let's say, HR team, the chatbot, somebody build, right, cannot access that, right? So that has become one of the key concern of all the organization. Yeah, I think looking forward to the exciting, also challenging future.
Thanks, Steve. Chia.
So in the year 2026, I'm looking forward to more edge AI, where instead of just focusing on LLMs, large language model, we are also looking into performance improvement in terms of small language models. I think because some of our use cases is deployment on edge devices. So hopefully we will make advancement in the area. In addition to that, I hope there's like the MCP moment for models in time. So for now, there's a standardization across how tool calling is done. So it's something called the Model Context Protocol, which is recently more generalized and standardized. So fully how we interact with models, there's also a standard protocol. So we can be model agnostic when we try to access different models. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thanks. Kelvin?
I think there's an underlying theme in my hope, wishes for 2026. I think that's to make AI a less daunting proposition to everyone, not just IT practitioners, but to users, the everyday users of AI. Right? I'm glad to see that my mom, she's 76 years old this year, and she's adopting AI a little bit more. She's for some reason she has asked me if I could help her to subscribe to ChatGPT. I don't know for what purpose, but I guess that's a good thing. But I'm really hoping that AI becomes more ubiquitous in its use and people fear it less. I think today there's a big fear in the industry that AI is going to replace jobs. It's going to replace people. And I think if you look at it, we should look at it a little bit more realistic. It's not going to replace humans. However, just to echo what my fellow panelists have said or have implied, it's people who do not adopt AI that is going to be at risk of being replaced by people who adopt AI. So it's not the technology that's scary. It's not understanding and making use of this tool that is scary. There was a time in the past, I think that's probably my mom's era, that said, computers are going to replace humans. It's not been proven true. Computers do not replace humans. However, what is true and what's proven over time is that people who do not learn how to use computers in their day-to-day lives will slowly become replaceable, right? And from Arcfra's perspective, I think what we really want to do is, again, it's along the same lines, and that is to make AI more available, not more available, but more approachable to organizations that want to adopt AI to help your businesses?
Yeah, thanks, Calvin. So definitely a lot of insightful perspectives and experiences shared by the panelists so far. We covered quite a wide range of different topics around AI and infrastructure. But now we are interested to hear from the floor. I mean, what are, I think, some of the topics or areas that interest you? And if you have any questions for the panel, now your turn. Feel free, just raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone over to you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, my name is Xiao Dong. Maybe I can go first. Yeah, just curious. So I think earlier, I think Steve and Kelvin mentioned that when you look at open source stacks, right? So one possible concern would be about data security or whether your data centers are in the correct geolocation for you. And probably I think when you've asked some like developers like myself even, right? If you're asking us to evaluate some open source stacks, right? Maybe we just go and look at, this GitHub page has a lot of stars, or maybe you go Reddit and then check what other people are using, right? So considering so, then how or what are some of the standards that you could use or heuristics that you can use to actually understand whether a particular open source project or standard is actually quite useful for building some of these AI systems in a more, I guess, democratized industry or field? Yeah.
Okay, so for the security part, there are a lot of things, right? It's a wide topic, right? But normally, let's say you just choose open source from a GitHub somewhere. I mean, it's quite dangerous, especially for the production systems. But anyway, any production system before go live, we need to go through the so-called VAPT, right? The security test. So if the library that you have used, it have some vulnerabilities or some threats, right? That test will pick it up and will tell you that you cannot go live with this. So you need to replace it with something equivalent but more secure, right? So that's one way that production system we need to ensure, right? Security also means for the use case that I have shared, the data residencies, right? So that is a different kind of security. I'm not sure if that is part of your questions, but let's say for that kind of use case, the requirement is the data need to sit within Singapore, right? Cannot go out. Even the processing, you cannot just call a ChatGPT, OpenAI API, right? So you need to, because of that, you need to host the model yourself. You have to host within the boundary of that client, that organization, right? So everything will be within the organization, processing within, right? Result within, everything within. Yeah, I hope that answered the questions.
Maybe I'll just add a little bit from an infrastructure perspective. Right? At the end of the day, that's the thing about open source, right? A lot of the heavy lifting needs to be borne by the end user of the open source thing. However, if you ask me how would I go about choosing which is the most reliable open source to use, I think look at the source of where the open source is coming from. Try to trace back and see if this open source module has been regularly updated, or has it been not updated for the longest time. Those are some of the telltale signs if an open source module should or should not be used, or how secure it is. How often is it updated from a feature perspective as well? I think that also determines the usability of this piece of code. If you do see an open source component that has not been updated for 10 years, I think the answer is right there. It may not be the most reliable thing to use. And if you do any VAPT, it's very likely to, highlight a lot of security issues. But just look at around, I guess, how much, not just the stars. I mean, honestly, stars can be manufactured, right? Just like maybe if you go to restaurants and you look at a Google review, it may not be a good representation of whether the restaurant is the best place to go. But look at the amount of people that are interacting on that Git page, questions that are being asked, and how often this piece of code has been updated, whether new releases are available, recently or not. I think that's probably one of the things that I personally would look at when adopting any open source technology.
I work for a software developer company. It's regards to hallucinations. The application and the solution now is using RAG, R-A-G. So in regards to that aspect, just wondering, open source versus like customized development. When these days when we sell the AI applications to customers, because we go for government projects and they have tenders and call for proposals, and in there is the specifications of maybe sometimes the accuracy. So we will infer that to accuracy in terms of like the hallucinations is taken care of because we have implemented RAG. So I want to know, because I'm not a technical person, I just want to understand, is this a good updates for the ongoing AI, or is there more updated, stuff that's overcoming the some of the lags or the faults of AI, ML? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess hallucinations in RAG, any improvements, I guess, in technology or what you're seeing in the field to better mitigate it?
Okay, so when we first started building chatbots to ingest simple documents to the user to query, we do encounter hallucinations. So what we did to mitigate this is that, okay, so first of all, hallucination is, it will probably always be there because it's just predicting the most probable token for your, let's say, your queries or your answers. So what we're trying to do is that we build customized workflow, not just simple RAG. So it's not just to retrieve the context and then retrieve the embeddings or the chunks and then make it a context and send it for generations. And then we also build like different pathways. Okay, so I'm talking about the no-code, low-code platform that we built to customize solutioning. So we have a few different routes. So given a single query, we could do a simple RAG. Then there's also alternative path that does slightly different variants of this to handle this query. And at the end of these different branches, we have this merge, which will then do a maybe simple voting or some aggregations to decide, okay, all this answer generated, which is the most probable answers. So this is one of the ways that we are handling this. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can add on top that. I think Jalen have shared, I think, yeah, I agree with that. So there'll be different pathway, right? So one question, we need to know whether is the data, like the response come from structured data or unstructured data, right? Then depends on what kind of question that you ask, right? If a structured data, it becomes just a SQL query statement. If it's unstructured data, then you need to use Gen AI to grab that response, right, from a certain place, right? So one way we can improve that or reduce the hallucination is you can just ask the bot to give you citation, right, where this result come from, and you can validate yourself, right? If it cannot give the citation, where this come from, or like when you go and validate it is not correct, then yeah, you need to tweak.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll just wrap up the panel. Thank you so much to our speakers and moderator for your insights. And thank you everyone for joining us today. The conversation doesn't end here. We have some refreshments at the back for you. Big shout out to Arcfra for sponsoring the F&B. Just like to share that the networking session will run till 5 p.m. So feel free to mingle with the other panelists, moderator, and as well as the other attendees. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy networking.